Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and this is a breakdown of Star Wars Andor Episode 5, The Axe Forgets, which is a relief because I forced way too much axe on a smelly day to Revenge of the Sith, and I hope no one remembers it. From Indiana Jones Easter eggs to just downright great character details, let's break down everything that you might have missed in this episode. Composer Nicholas Britell's music continues to evolve over the titles, episode by episode, this time adding some piano notes to the mix. By the season finale, this better be Britell's Succession theme. Now, this title of The Axe Forgets comes from the rebel Arvel Skeen's line later.
The axe forgets, but the tree remembers.
He's referring to how oppressors tend to forget their crimes, but the wounded never forget. And despite this episode focusing so much on the victims of the Empire, it's not titled The Tree Remembers, and I think it's because we are all axes and trees in different ways to different people. We tend to remember how we've been scarred, but not the scars that we leave on others. Cassian Andor, for example, totally a victim, a tree scarred in his own ways, but also an axe in others. And one of the victims of his cutting, Cyril Karn, a tree deeply scarred. And that's who we start with this episode. Sunlight briefly beams in before fading on his face. It was implied from that spaceport scene last episode that this Metropolitan world could be Hosnian Prime, future capital of the New Republic after the Empire falls. And if so, a blinding light in the sky of this planet totally foreshadows the apocalyptic end of Hosnian Prime by the First Order. Maybe too, a destined doom for Karn, disguised as a heavenly spotlight. Each storyline this episode begins with a kind of breakfast. And on the table of this breakfast are some fruits that look like Melurun, the fruit popular from Rebels and the Book of Boba Fett, but these fruits are smaller than they are in the Book of Boba Fett. They actually look more like real-world Kiwano melons. His mother, Edie, played by Katherine Hunter, Fig from Order of the Phoenix, and the witches from the Tragedy of Macbeth, pours him cereal with blue bantha milk in this puffed cereal that kind of looks like Oops All Berries. He holds one and stares at it, probably wishing he were on a doomed space station in this shape instead of here with his mom. She nags,
"You're slouching. By the time you've remembered to sit up straight, it's too late. You might as well wear a sign that says, 'I promise to disappoint you.'"
Yeah, this is a real trigger for the moody boys of this episode.
Shoulders back. More.
Don't touch me. You want something, you tell me.
Cyril spends time staring at Cassian's mugshot, and I think these two are on parallel trajectories. Because if you think about it, the only real prospect available to Cyril at this point, through his Uncle Harlow, might be the rebellion. Something Cyril might try out as a way to get closer to Cassian. We could totally imagine a scenario where these two are on a mission together and then, whoa, because as Vel later says,
everyone has their own rebellion.
Cassian wakes up to find Skeen going through his stuff, including his K-19 Briar pistol, the same blaster used by Kyle Katarn in the Dark Forces game, and that corporate blaster that Cassian got from the Primor cops in episode 1. As Cassian approaches, his eyes drop to Skeen's tattoo.
Great head.
What about this?
By the hand.
Yes, Skeen's chest tattoo has a barcode, meaning this is some kind of prison registry. And Crate Head is a reference to the Crate Dragon, which might have been Skeen's prison gang. Now, By the Hand could be a nod to the Path of the Open Hand from Tessa Gratton and Justina Ireland's new Path of Deceit from the High Republic series, published literally this week. Wait, no, Lucasfilm probably had outlines of it for months now. This story follows a culty Nihil gang who believe the Force should no longer be used. Don't just hands, there's also a group of Palpatine operatives from Legends called the Emperor's Hand. Mara Jade, Luke Skywalker's wife, was a member of it, and the Rebels episode Legacy of Mandalore confirmed this group exists in canon, even if Mara Jade remains non-canon for now. It would be crazy for Skeen to be involved in either of these groups. I think he may have just gotten this tattoo as a reference to the Nihil ideology. Skeen asks Cassian how he knows these.
So where were you?
Sipo. Youth Center. 3 years. I was 13 when I went in.
They built a lot of cages, huh? The axe forgets, but the tree remembers. Now it's our turn to do the chopping.
Now remember, Cassian did have a prior mugshot in Imperial records claiming he was from Best, so he likely did sometime before he was forced to fight in Mimban. Skeen's reference to the episode title is also him referencing his brother, a pepper tree farmer, and as he walks away, he passes an axe and freshly cut firewood, meaning that it was Skeen's morning chores and brother remembrance that likely caused him to work up this sweat that required this bath. Another breakfast scene shows us Mon Mothma with her husband Perrin.
Driver's here.
Cloris.
You know his name?
Yeah, I love the subtextual storytelling there. Mon has a new driver who's been spying on her. But the fact that Perrin doesn't know the new driver suggests that he's completely removed from the spycraft. He's super ignorant. But also we learned they have a daughter, Lita, who changes the routine and says that Daddy's taking me to school today.
The point is, we have a schedule. The driver's waiting. I've planned on this and we're going.
You're only doing it to show off.
What?
Just go.
What would I be showing off?
You're involved somehow.
Yeah, Mon's planned routine likely involved her using this schedule to connect with her rebel contacts. Every move she makes has to be carefully planned, so Lita altering the schedule mucks all that up. Indeed, Mon Mothma is using this girl for show, but for more than just political posturing, but to truly have a convincing cover identity for the Empire who is watching her. It's also pretty sad to think that when Mon Mothma goes on the lam to publicly join the rebellion following the Gorman massacre, she will be leaving behind a daughter. Nemik pours Cassian his breakfast.
Dray milk. You can live on it. You may question your existence after a few days. Memorable, isn't it?
Yeah, Nemik is obsessed with memorable, true moments because he believes the Empire is brainwashing everyone. This series has been so concerned with an Imperial Starpath unit, but Nemik shows Cassian an old Starpath unit.
Old and true and sturdy. One of the best navigational tools ever built. Can't be jammed or intercepted. Something breaks, you can fix it yourself.
Hard to learn.
Yes, but once you've mastered it, you're free.
This prop is actually the backside of a Polaroid SX70 camera from 1972, and I love that they use an early 70s appliance to harken back to the beat-up analog tech look from the 1977 Star Wars film. They use a super analog camera, something that literally prints the photograph on film in your hand, basically the oldest type of practical working camera that we'd have in our world. Nemik rants.
There's a growing list of things we've known and forgotten, things they've pushed us to forget. Things like freedom.
Nemik sees oppression everywhere.
Yeah, Nemik explains the psychology of the Empire's fascist control. By using Imperial technology, people have allowed themselves to become enslaved. Also notice during the scene how Cassian observes how Skeen is drinking with his left hand. This is the moment that Cassian registers all of their handedness. Like later when he says Nemik favors his right but shoots with his left, Nemik in this scene holds his Starpath in his right hand but keeps his true moral compass, his manifesto, in his left. But Nemik goes on.
The pace of repression outstrips our ability to understand it, and that is the real trick of the Imperial thought machine. It's easier to hide behind 40 atrocities than a single incident.
Oof, speak truth. I would love to see Nemik in a speed debate with Partagas. We are healthcare providers. Providers of an opiate to the masses to which we've grown addicted. An addiction willingly subscribed to by alien patients ignored by the cruelties of freedom. Freedoms you have an open invitation to attempt to cure. Nemik says,
Our elemental rights are such a simple thing to hold, they will have to shake the galaxy awfully hard to loosen our grip.
yeah, Nemik is using the same grip metaphor that Leia uses on Tarkin.
The more you tighten your grip, Tarkin, the more star systems will slip through your fingers.
But Nemik sees meaning in everything, including what is currently in his hands.
Two seemingly random objects, and yet this charts an astral path, this maps the trail of political consciousness. Both systems based on truth, both navigating toward clear and achievable outcomes.
And I love what this means for Cassian. The path ahead in the stars, through the Eye of Aldhani, is the same kind of thing as the path toward political awakening for him. If you're loving Andor as much as I am and you want a fun way to commemorate this cool show, all season long, the Star Wars Card Trader by Topps is dropping weekly card sets after every episode airs. Last week I got this cool one of Mon Mothma cruising up to Luthen Rael's antique shop from episode 4. Star Wars Card Trader by Topps lets you open digital packs to collect your favorite Star Wars characters, weapons, and moments. It's not just Andor characters, get yourself a Leia, a Grogu, a Cad Bane too. Once you open the packs, you can connect and trade cards with fans across the galaxy to complete sets. Get free cards and credits daily to grow your collection. You can complete missions to unlock unique content or craft your cards into rarer ones at the workbench. They're always releasing new card sets, so the fun of collecting never has to end. Join me now on Star Wars Card Trader by Topps by downloading the game from the link in this video's description, and find me on there under the username New Rockstars Max and propose a trade. Now, the sheep livestock is a real-world British breed called Jacob sheep that commonly have 4 horns, but they actually added an additional prosthetic pair to make 6. I've heard some speculation that these might be nerfs, as in, a scruffy-looking nerf herder, but that hasn't been confirmed. Lieutenant Gorn arrives at the temple.
What's this? target practice?
Yes, we learn later this episode that he fell in love with a local woman. His discipline in this case is truly rooted in genuine respect for the Aldhani's sacred sites. Back on Barracks, Supervisor Blevin oversees a cleanup from Karn's mess back in episode 3, appointing Captain Tigo as the prefect, giving him the hotel as his new Imperial headquarters, which includes his laundry device with a garment bag. I assume it is Willie's, because you know that guy probably paid an arm and a leg for dry cleaning. An Imperial CPH patrol speeder bike floats up to the left. We actually first saw one of these chasing Han and Kira on Corellia in Solo, a Star Wars story, and as the Imperials march past, the editing perfectly syncs with the Aldhani rebels marching to practice looking like these Imperials. Cassian proves he knows what hand they all shoot with and suggests to switch formation so that their guns are on the outside. I assume next episode is gonna be pretty important on the mission. And then a TIE fighter buzzes past and it reappears over the crest, doing a really low flyover. I love how all the humans duck and cover their ears, but the sheep unfazed. Why? Because Jacob's sheep suck at acting. They refuse to react to VFX on the set. Should've put me in the volume. Mimic says,
They'll soon see. Surprise from above is never as shocking as one from below.
ultimately, this will prove true in the Battle of Scarif. Cassian and his team in that battle will be able to bring down a threat from above, the friggin' Death Star, with an assault from the ground below on the Scarif surface. Cinta quizzes Cassian in the Aldhani language.
Hello.
Narvai.
Again.
Narvai.
Stop.
Nisha.
Nich. It's hard.
Now, Fiona Shaw told us that they created actual functional languages for this show, and I tried to find a linguist on the staff, but so far I've only found Marina Tyndall credited as a dialect coach. Now, in the real world, all spoken languages have a practicality in how they evolve, and I like how in this case, the word for stop has a hard as opposed to soft phonetic pronunciation at the end of the word. Nach as opposed to naish. At the ISB, Dedra Miro brainstorms in her investigation.
Hosnian Prime?
It's useless. They haven't broken, misplaced, or mislabeled a single military component in the past 12 quarters.
Yeah, Hosnian Prime coming up again, which might be where Karn is located and thus how we could tie back into this. Miro's aide says,
You're onto something. Kessel. Fondor. Targeting consoles from Jakku, proton warheads from Base K, the Steerguard star path.
So these are all the past cases that Dedra Miro has been trying to connect. Kessel could refer to the events of Solo, a Star Wars story, where Han and his crew stole coaxium, that starship fuel, from the pikes on Kessel, which ended up in the hands of the rebel group, the Cloud Riders. One of the Cloud Riders is Benthic Two Tubes, brother to Edrio Two Tubes, member of Saw Gerrera's partisans. And based on a shot in one of the late Andor trailers, Edrio will appear later in this season. Fondor is a shipyard planet seen in Battlefront 2, from which Luthen got his Fondor Hullcraft, which remember is mysteriously equipped with a hyperdrive. Jakku is a desert planet from The Force Awakens, future setting of the Battle of Jakku and where Rey grew up, and decades before this series, Palpatine began an archaeological dig on Jakku, all to prep for his later Sith observatory, from which he will post-mortem orchestrate his Operation Cinder contingency plan to scorch all planets. Proton warheads go on the tip of proton torpedoes, and of course, Steerguard, where the Starpath unit was taken. Saw Gerrera is at least benefiting from all these incidents, but as someone in hiding anyway, I don't think he really cares if the Empire finds out what he does. He might even prefer it because he's like a terrorist. Instead, I think Dedra's investigation is gonna lead to Luthen, who said this episode that he hasn't really been careful, and I think when he gets exposed, that's gonna force Mon Mothma to cut him off to maintain her deception and her status in the Senate. Gorn reprimands his men.
With an engineering officer from Coruscant arriving today and in our business.
Yeah, another reference to this Coruscant engineer, whom I think we see arriving in that Imperial shuttle later on. Whoever this is, it couldn't be a major wrinkle in their mission, maybe a VIP that the rebels have to choose whether or not to assassinate or stay focused on their mission. Or if they have some bigger booms planned for this dam, a dead VIP that's gonna make this mission an even bigger blip for the Empire. Skeen rages about the crystal.
Kyber, Sky Kyber. Can a stone worth 30,000 credits?
Yeah, Skeen is lowballing it. Luthen said not to take less than 50,000 for this crystal. But Vel quells the feud, yet still, Cassian comes clean to them.
I'm here for the money. You can't live with that? I'm not worth it? I'll walk away and wish you luck.
So by telling them all the truth, Cassian just lays down their cards so that they know his motives. Perrin challenges Mon Mothma about not telling him about this new charity foundation, which she probably hid from her husband, because this is how she's gonna move some rebel funds around. Skeen reveals to Cassian what his personal rebellion is. His brother was a pepper tree farmer whose land was flooded by an Imperial prefect, and his brother drowned himself. So how's cousin gonna make the Jardinera without some bell peppers? But this revelation also gives greater weight for Skeen to attack this Imperial dam. This dam dammed a sacred river and flooded a valley, displacing thousands of farmers. So in every single one of those farmers, Skeen will see his brother. It might get hard for him to not get emotional tomorrow. Vel splits off with Cinta on a side part of the mission that they won't tell Cassian. As the two women of the group, maybe there's some role to play as Aldani priestesses, maybe as friends of the Commandant's wife that got mentioned earlier. But remember, there was a little moment earlier where Cinta said that she rigged the charges that they're gonna use in some way in this mission. So maybe they could be on their own suicide mission to blow this dam after Cassian departs it, leaving him as a sole survivor with the payload. And that's why it was so important for Luthen to have him on this mission. And actually, if you think about it, it could be an even bigger deal than he thought when he insisted on piloting the freighter earlier, back when he shamed them for not knowing how to calibrate the weight. Because by moving himself in the pilot position and telling Vel you'll still get the credit for it, he might have accidentally shifted the roles around so that Vel would stay behind. Maybe, we'll see how it goes. In Luthen's shop, on the shelf behind him are some big Easter eggs. And I mean big, because those Jedi and Sith holocrons are way larger than they are when we see them elsewhere in Star Wars titles. So I don't know if these are real holocrons, they may just be enlarged replicas of them. But I don't know why they would have replicas of these things. It's not like they're widely known. But even crazier than these, beside them to the right are the Sankara stones from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Now this isn't the only broader Lucasfilm family cameos. The final shot shows 3 carbonite plates. We saw them better last episode in the interior shot. The outermost one shows Indiana Jones' whip. Beneath that, frozen in carbonite, is the golden idol from the Temple and Raiders. And beneath that, frozen in carbonite, are Indiana Jones' famous Alden boots. And there is a long history of Star Wars and Indiana Jones referencing each other. R2 and 3PO are among the hieroglyphics by the Ark of the Covenant. Shanghai's Club Obi-Wan and Temple of Doom. A barrel on the boat in The Last Crusade with a Portuguese word for carbonite. The golden idol cameos among Dryden Voss's items in Solo Star Wars Story. And various shared sound effects from the Lucasfilm archives. Sometimes Easter eggs are just meant to be fun. Like, I don't think we're meant to read too much into Luthen having the Lothal tablets or Plo Koon's mask or the Starkiller armor. When it comes to how important these Easter eggs are, it really just depends on the director, because when Dave Filoni includes Easter eggs in his Star Wars titles, I think he wants us to be like Dedra Zane.
It's too random to be random.
Follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at EA Voss. Follow New Rockstars. Subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching. Bye.